Hi, everyone. We're back again with this exciting fireside chat with Nadine Bitar. Nadine Bitar Chahine is an advisor on sustainable urban development, where she led more than 43 districts and urban extensions in the Middle East, Africa, and Southeast Asia. In this fireside chat, we will try to cover all these topics and explore the future of thriving places, what place led cities are, and how can we build and plan for a more sustainable future? Welcome, Nadine. Happy to have you.
Hello, good evening.
How are you? All good?
Good, good, all good.
We have 30 minutes to explore your amazing career, your impact, and maybe what are ways we can improve sustainability and work towards a better MENA region. First of all, can you tell us a little bit, take a deep dive on who is Nadine? How come you chose this field?
I think that all of us begin our career thinking that everything is in boxes. And each one of us, when they go to university, we check one of the boxes in our application for university, and we think that's the track that life will take us. For me, I ticked the box of architecture, and then I ticked the box of urban design. But then, as I started working in my field, I realized that the way we change cities is through system thinking. And I started interacting with other disciplines like transport planners or infrastructure planners. And as I well, we in my generation we had multiple crises. One of them is 2008 financial crisis. We had the climate crisis, and now the pandemic. And you started thinking that how we can make enable us as professionals to think across lines through system thinking to connect the dots. And this is where I am now. I'm someone who likes to talk about cities from a place-led systems perspective, where we connect the dots together.
You're mentioning so many exciting and interesting terms. Can you tell us a little bit about placelet cities and placelet systems?
Yes, yes, sure, sure. Now, for many, a place is just a territorial or spatial unit, but place is not that. If you go through multiple discipline, place has played a role in urban geography, human geography, in economics. We have place-based approaches in economics, in community development, and international development, and in local economic development, such as clusters and competition. So place has multiple dimension, multiple facets, and the idea is that cities needs to not escape complexity. Place is a way or a tool for us to transition and go through and navigate through complexity to enable cities to address these multiple crises at the same time, because we cannot have especially with our budgets. We have, inflation budgets. We need to choose strategies that can hit multiple aspects, multiple goals, and help us take these cities to the future.
You maybe recall an experience when you first got introduced to places and their impact in this field. Maybe how the difference between placelet cities, maybe in Beirut, maybe your hometown, right? Or and the difference with that with the UAE, there's a huge difference, and I think also historical difference, urban geographical difference. Can you tell us a little bit about these experiences?
Yes. Now, Beirut and Dubai both are very typical, because while Beirut represent the Arab optimum of Renaissance in the 1560s, Dubai is now representing that optimum. So, in a way, if you take their structural trajectory as systems, they both have went through a similar trajectory. The second thing that is very obvious in both cities is sprawl. So Beirut as a city has sprawled to its mountains through its suburbs, and also Dubai has sprawled from Deira and Bar Dubai to also its suburbs And now we talk about really the bigger Dubai, the metropolitan Dubai. So in a way, we tend to think that maybe from an economic development, maybe they are now at different conjecture in their time. But there are so many common things that we can actually bring them together. One of the two similarities between Beirut and Dubai is the relationship of the city with the sea. Both are coastal cities, and their sea plays a big role in terms of their development. You know, Beirut has one of the longest coastal interface. Also, there is much research on how public or private or well managed that interface is. And Dubai has the same. Also, it has used a different development strategy to increase that cost. And this is where place comes, because I don't think, as a Beiruti and as a Dubaian, my relationship with the sea is very strong. And that relationship is the place where you can start talking about, for example, in Dubai, Kite Beach. Whoever is visiting or living in Dubai, they have witnessed the transformation of the Kite Beach from an informal place to now a space where there is multiple things happening at the same time. So Kite Beach is a response to sand erosion. It's a response to active travel. It's a response to biking as a sport. It's response to having a relationship with the sea. And also it's a diverse, inclusive space where everybody, no matter what their budget is, come. The same thing with the Sea Corniche in Beirut. It's a space where everybody is welcomed, and also it's a space which defines your relationship with the sea, whether it's you're walking, you're jogging, or even you're just taking your kids on a weekend. And it's definitely a part of Beirut that I hope it will be developed into a more comprehensive strategy.
Mhm. This is really interesting because you mentioned individual behaviors and how they shape our places. And maybe this is something that we don't think about often. You know, we're born into this space and we see it gradually change and adapt. You also worked with high level players, you worked on a policy level. Where do you think the biggest impact is? Do you think the biggest impact is by influencing individual behaviors and then maybe changing the place to a more sustainable aspect, or do you think the biggest impact comes from the higher level, from policies and governments adapting to those? Where do you think is the most impact? And I would say, where do you think is more effective on the longer term? That's a bit of a tricky question, maybe.
That in my work, the biggest impact of any policy is when the private sector, the public sector, and the community and the academia collaborate all together in co-producing and co-designing these policies.
Mhm.
Now, of course, in the setting of the Arab Gulf cities, community engagement takes a different form than in the Western settings. It's more about focused group. It's about also having more urban labs and brainstorming sessions. But they do engage on that. So the biggest impact of a policy when it's co-produced, co-designed, and this is where also place comes into perspective. Let's take, for example, when we talk about net zero. There is no net zero city unless we have an acceleration, and that acceleration needs to happen through design thinking. And design thinking is by default something that brings together multiple actors into a process where you ideate, you brainstorm, you innovate, you prototype, and then you test.
Mhm. And where do you think the most areas that need work now? If maybe people who are studying architecture, sustainability are watching us, where do you think the efforts need to be?
That's very very interesting. When we talk about architecture or sustainability, we come back to the box mentality. I think the first thing I would tell somebody who is embarking on their mission to contribute to solve some of the crises we are facing, such as climate change or pandemics, or is do not limit yourself by the lines of the discipline that you are taught with. Please go and get a multidisciplinary approach and know what the other disciplines are thinking about the issues that you're doing. Because I'm telling you, the silo mentality is where it got us where we are.
Mhm.
And this silo mentality, we need to have really mediators, people who understand multiple technical languages in order for them to connect the dots and make things happen. This is the first area. And the second area is definitely co-design and co-production of knowledge. We really need to get these skills out. We really need to be really equipped with these skills, because knowledge now in the 21st century is never produced by one entity.
Mhm. I can relate to the first idea so much because I myself am an interdisciplinary person because I'm studying international relations and computer science and helping regulate tech and understand tech. And I can so relate to needing the immediate between those two big worlds, nonetheless like another big word like sustainability. Um, and so we have a special, I think, context in the Arab world because we don't have, I would say, many Arab experts. We tend to rely on materials that are in English, that are more specific to Western geography and context. Where do you think if an Arab wants to study sustainability and work in an Arab context, and just a specific resource or people working in this field, where should they head?
In terms of education, or in terms of field, or in terms of...
I think in terms of education, resources, I think it's important, and I want to hear also your opinion about this. I think it's important to create our own experts because sustainability and climate change and those are all behaviors related to the human person, the humankind, and we humans are specific to their environment, the result of their environment. So I think each human
Yeah,
needs
yeah,
to, yeah, work
yes.
differently.
I think there are many professional networks that are happening across the Arab world, that are connecting experts together, and we have to understand that Arab experts are shaping global policy. We
Mhm.
have Arab experts in multiple international organizations. Or the director, one of, yani, in multiple international organizations, many Arabs are contributing. So in that way, I as I evolved in my career, I realized that it has much to do with me cooperating with experts that are on the same mission,
Mhm.
rather than talking about maybe an Arab perspective on things. Because if you take affordable housing, I think a person in London who's suffering from high rent of their apartment, a person in New York who's suffering from gentrification in their neighborhoods, or a person in Africa who cannot access affordable housing, has the same pain of an urban dwellers in the Arab world who cannot access affordable housing, and then they have to leave their city and live in a suburb. So there are universal human themes. So I more encourage people to network with their professional associations that are of the same mission. For example, sustainability is such a big, complex
Yeah.
word now. It's not a word; it's a word by itself. So let's say you're someone, you're graduating and you want to talk really about well-being. Well, I think there are multiple professional associations that do tackle that. So think more about what's your mission, what's your purpose, rather than where you come from. Because now, this said, I understand where you're coming from in terms of contextual sensitivity, mainly language. rituals, culture, but also how we think of systems, because each culture has its own way. And in that aspect, yeah, I do agree with you. We need to coordinate regionally on that aspect. I am part of a UN expert group, and I always try to contribute to that global space of dialogue that's happening through forums or summits or conferences or even capacity building. I'm really active with the Arab Town organization through the Environmental Center based in Dubai.
Mhm. This is amazing advice, and I love the mission-based knowledge and curiosity. And I think the more you travel, the more you know that on the base we all face the same problems eventually. And it's very interesting that affordable housing is also part of the sustainability uh, end goal. What are some interesting titles that normal people would not consider or would not connect to sustainability? Because as you know, the main idea of sustainability is clean energy, solar panels, all this kind of stuff. What are some underlying problems that we don't think as sustainability problems, but they are sustainability problems at the core?
I think one of the main issue in sustainability is gender. How you
Mhm.
can mainstream gender. In most of the climate change impact studies, women will be the most affected because, especially in urban and rural areas, through multiple factors. So, gender has a lot to do with the sustainability. Actually, one of the studies proved that if you educate women, we have a better chance of reducing emission, because women are the custodians of their communities and their local knowledge is spread around. So gender is one of them. The second one that I really now is I'm very very interested in is acceleration and innovation. Innovation management is key for us to meet the climate change and Paris Agreement, because we need to accelerate action. What does it mean, accelerate action? Yani we need to scavenge, we need to search for these solutions that are really effective, that are really good, and scale them up and replicate them, so we don't lose too much time. We have only 8 years
Mhm.
until 2030. So people don't really associate innovation management with sustainability. I think the idea is more to focus on sustainable development, not only sustainability. Development is a process. Sustainability is really now a blanket for a lot of discourses and discussions.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if I answered your question. I think the third one, which is really, really important, I think it is embedded in most of the talks, but not really talked about, is knowledge and data. How we can transform data into knowledge. We have a lot of data. Okay, we're not very good in collecting that data, but we need to transform this data into knowledge, into evidence, so we can inform our policies. The cycle is very slow now. We need to make it quicker. So these are the three main things.
This is extremely enlightening, even for me, as someone who I consider myself a little bit, I try to read a little bit more, and it's amazing to know that, for example, one of the key things is gender, because if you think about it, the person who is running most of the things at home are females, and so maybe individual acts would lead to a faster and more accelerated behaviors towards impacting and maybe having a less of an impact for climate change. What do you think are simple behaviors we do every day that would either worsen the impact of climate change or make it better?
I think just stop for 5 minutes and think, do I need to get into the car?
Mhm.
I think that's something even in Dubai I try to do. If, for example, I went to a space and I feel like I can connect through metro or through ride sharing, or so why not? Especially that electrification of fleets, like taxi fleets or ride hailing fleets.
is very important for the climate. I think the second thing is, do I need this plastic bag? I'm sure you've heard it many times, but every day when I go out into the park next to my home, and I walk and I see this amazing ecosystem that needs really to thrive on a very, very low pollution practices. I think this is my second thing. My third thing is very, very simple stuff. Get a reusable water bottle.
Mhm.
That's the most simplest thing that anybody can do. Get a reusable water bottle and try to encourage this in your community. Now, there are bigger things that you can do.
And one of the bigger things that you can do is you protect the environment once you associate meaning with that environment. The park next to my house becomes a place when I know the names of the species of the butterflies that are in the garden, the names of the trees, the ecosystem services that these trees provide, and what this park is doing for the whole neighborhood. Get to know your environment, and by default, you will protect what you love. But you cannot love something if you don't understand it, if you don't know it, if you're not curious about it, and that's very important.
This is beautiful, and I think I have a couple comments on that. First of all, I'm heading to Rwanda for the International Telecommunications Youth Summit next in the end of the month, and one of the main guidelines is no plastic bags. The country has been having a ban on plastic bags for I think the past 2 years. So I'm really excited now to see the impact of such maybe a simple ban, we would call it. And the second thing is. When you keep saying when you're talking, I kept remembering indigenous communities and the relation to their lands. I'm from Palestine, and we're a farming community. And I kept remember my grandmother and her relation with the land around the house. Even though she could build maybe a bigger house if she used all the land, they often prefer to have small houses and bigger maybe backyards or farming lands beside them. And no matter maybe we don't have water systems, we didn't have the technology we have now, but they kept their lands healthier. Do you think the problem is with us needing something fast and something maybe chemical packaged to protect the land? Do we need to go back to the simple ways, or is there a way to take advantage with the advanced technology but still have that connection, beautiful connection that needs time and love with the land?
I don't see a contradiction between indigenous knowledge and local knowledge and technology. Actually, a technology can amplify the stories that you're talking about now, the stories of these local communities who have lived on land for thousands of years and who knows every single problem. One of the projects I was exposed to recently in one of the webinars and workshops I participated in is that in some countries for climate adaptation, they are asking the local communities what sort of early warning signs they were using before technology, and they are using technology to replicate this.
Oh.
So, for example, somebody mentions that a certain herb start becoming dry if there is areas in temperature. So they start putting sensors or try to take this herb as an early warning sign. So local knowledge does not contradict technology. The problem is technology needs to go and talk to this local knowledge, to the
Mhm.
indigenous knowledge. For example, sorry, I'm mentioning the park, but it taught me so many things, this park.
I need to visit it now.
Today, I met the landscape architect who's working on the horticulture and on really greening the park. Because now in Dubai, there is a big drive on using nature-based solution to really green the city and reduce air pollution. So while I was talking to him, I realized that he has so much knowledge into plants. And we started talking about how we can actually use plants that have a certain herbal or medicinal aspect or medicinal usage. So then you start really thinking about this local knowledge as having multiple applications.
Mhm.
So it's not only about loving a tree. It's about, for example, olive tree is something amazing. It's a miraculous. Each olive tree is miraculous by itself. It delivers so much, and it maintains the soil. So land degradation, local knowledge is very much related to each other. But we need technology to amplify the stories, to make it more reachable for the younger generation, but also to let the science and the indigenous knowledge talk a language that is a little bit more simple.
Mhm. This is amazing. And we keep going back to the main idea, which is we need mediates, we need to talk, and we need communities that interact with different specialties. What is one way do you think we can make that community? Because I think we have this little exclusivity when we have a conference, for example, on trees, and it's in English, and you know, there's this exclusive sense of it. How can we invite indigenous people and even seniors to get in and pitch their ideas?
Yes, I think that advocacy is so important, and awareness. Advocacy and awareness is one of the activities that any young person can do. Talk to your neighbor, talk to your grandmother, talk to the elders in your community, and try, because all these youngsters have these amazing content creation skills. So
Mhm,
you can use that, and social media becomes your platform to really amplify these stories. It's so simple, but also as professionals, we need also to develop our own humbleness and humility to really start conversing with these local knowledge post holders.
mhm,
And that will not happen unless we really think of space as multifaceted.
mhm,
So when we analyze the space, we tend to go to the numbers, the land use numbers, the number of housing units, the roads, the width of the roads. However, there is also another part of the brain that we don't think about: the local stories, the meanings, the rituals, the daily habits. How do we capture these? Ethnography is part of that. So
mhm.
we need to have a qualitative and a quantitative understanding of the place.
Nadine, Bitar, it was amazing having you, and we are right on time. We have, I think, a couple seconds. So, any final words you'd like to give our attendees and the people who will watch this recording afterwards?
Yes, I just wanna thank you for asking these very simple but very deep questions. I always, when I go to conferences, I think that we have talked enough about sustainability until I realized that we need to do a lot in terms of advocacy, awareness, but also we need to talk a lot about new frameworks of thinking. And place-led cities is actually one of these new thinking frameworks that I hope will contribute to Arab cities that are more resilient, that are optimistic, that believe in themselves, and they are more confident in facing the crisis that we are all going through.
Thank you so much, Nadine.